Hello again everybody, it's Mel at Stocksbridge Guitar Tech. I've got a bit of a different video for you today. I had a request from a subscriber. I'm going to try and pronounce his name. Tiberiu. I really apologise if I've completely got that pronunciation wrong. But anyway, he asked me if I would do a video on basically connecting a guitar to an amplifier and going over the amp control. So this is very much going to be a beginner's lesson on connecting your guitar to your amplifier. He also asked about connecting up pedals, so I'm going to split this video into two parts because I don't want it to get too long. So today we're just going to be looking at the basic types of amplifier, the basic controls on an amplifier and what those controls do and how we connect the guitar to the amplifier. So without further ado, let's crack on and let's have a look at some different types of amp. The first type of amplifier is a valve amplifier or tube amplifier. Now this is an amp that is powered by these glass tubes, which we call valves in the UK, and inside a guitar amplifier you will usually find that there are two amplifiers. There's a pre-amplifier which is responsible for things like tone, the equalisation, bass, middle, treble, and also the gain structure of the amp, so how much overdrive or not the amp produces. That's the preamp. And then the power amp section is just the output volume, how loud the amp's going to be. So this is a preamp valve. A power amp valve would be much larger than that. So that's a preamp valve. Now in an all valve amplifier, both sections of the amplifier, the preamp and the power amp, will be powered by those glass tubes. These things glow when they warm up and they get very, very hot. So just be aware of that. Here's an example of a valve amplifier. This is my Laney Cub all valve 15 watt amp. As you can see here, we've got reverb, tone, volume, bass, middle, treble, and on the end gain. And we have two inputs, a low power input and then the full 15 watts input. If we take a look at the back, see we have an open back cabinet that with a kick grill on. It has a single 12-inch custom HH speaker, and we have the valves there. So we have two larger power valves and three smaller preamp valves. So that's a single channel amplifier. That means it only has one channel. You plug the guitar in, it just has one set of controls for that amp. Now some amplifiers have two channels or three channels or more. It depends on the amp and the manufacturer. The most basic type of guitar amp is just going to be a single channel amp like that one. Let's have a look next at a solid state amplifier. So a solid state amplifier has no valves in it. It's all transistors and resistors on a circuit board. It's all digital, in other words. So here's an example of a solid state amplifier. This is my Blackstar TVP 260. Here we have a voice selection switch. So we have 6 different voices to choose from. Then we have gain and volume, the EQ section, bass, middle and treble. This ISF is kind of like a global EQ control. Then we have the valve selection. This amp models different types of valves. We have 6 different valve types there. Then we have an effects section, modulation, delay and reverb effects built in. And then we have the master section with resonance, presence and volume. We look at the back of the amp. As you can see, this is a closed back cabinet. This has 2 12-inch speakers. And this is all solid state. No valves inside anywhere. Now this amp is much more complicated and complex than the Lena in that it's a multi-channel amplifier. It actually has 128 memory locations within the amp where I can store different what we call patches, and those patches can be anything. They can be clean sounds, they can be overdriven sounds, they can be distorted sounds, they can have effects on them or no effects. So it's a very, very versatile amplifier, and that is all digital. It doesn't have any valves, it's just purely resistors, transistors on a circuit board, and that's it. The third type of amplifier is a sort of a combination of the two. It's part valve and part solid state. We call this a hybrid amplifier, and what you will usually find is that the preamp section the preamp section of the amp will have a valve in it or a couple of valves, and the power amp section will be solid state. Sometimes those roles are reversed though, so you get the power amp section has valves in it and the preamp section is solid state, but more usually you will find the preamp section has the small preamp valves in it. So this is an example of a hybrid amp. This is my Marshall VS100. So you can see we have a clean channel, overdrive 1 channel, overdrive 2 channel, the EQ section for both overdrive channels, and then a reverb section and effects section. And if we take a look at the back, as you can see, it's an open back cabinet with a single 12-inch speaker. So that amp, the Marshall, just has a single 12AX7 valve in it like this in the preamp section to control the gain and the EQ, and then the power amp section is all solid state. And this is a 3-channel amplifier. It has a clean channel and then it has overdrive 1 and overdrive 2, so 3 channels in total. Now I'm going to use the VS1 in the examples. If you buy a cheaper amplifier, it may only have 1 channel, or it may have 2 channels, a clean channel and an overdrive channel. So we'll take a closer look at the Marshall VS100 and how to connect the guitar to the amplifier. Okay, so we take our guitar and we take our guitar lead. I've got another one down here somewhere. So we plug one end of the guitar lead into the output jack of the guitar. Now this is an output. It's very important that we always connect an output to an input and vice versa, an input to an output. We never connect an input to an input. or an output to an output. We take the other end of the cable and we plug that into our amplifier. So I'm just going to move the camera now and put it onto the Marshall amp so you can see what I'm doing. So here's my Marshall VS100. I'm going to take the guitar lead and plug it into the input of the amplifier like so. Now I'm just miking the speaker up here with a cheap PV microphone. That mic's going straight into my audio interface, so I don't know how this is going to sound, but you should get an idea. So we'll just move in a bit closer so you can see the controls better. So I'm going to turn the amp on, get the guitar, and we'll start off with the clean channel, which is this one on the end here. I'll move that lead so you can see better. This is the clean channel, and we have a basic volume control and then bass, middle and treble for the EQ. This is how the clean channel sounds. Obviously we would just then adjust the bass, middle and treble however we wanted them till we got the sound that we wanted. On this amp we also have a tone shift button, so if I just press that in, this is with the button out. I don't know if that mic will pick that up, but there's quite a drop in volume there, a bit of a drop in volume, and it also removes a lot of the bottom end, the boomy bottom end, because this is an open back cab and sometimes they can get a bit boomy. So with it out, it's a much thicker, warmer, bassier sound. So that's the clean channel, very, very simple. You have a volume control and an EQ. Now, your amp may very well only have a volume and EQ. Usually it will also have a gain control, which is like a secondary volume, but that introduces distortion. So to demonstrate that, we'll go to channel 2, which is overdrive 1, this channel here, where we have a gain and a volume, and the EQ for this channel is shared with this channel. So the EQ for this overdrive 1 is over here. We've got bass, middle and treble. So I'll just put the overdrive on. That's clean, that's with the overdrive on. Okay, and we have gain and volume here. Now if I want to, if my amp only had one channel, but it has a gain and a volume, if I want a clean sound, what I need to do is turn this gain down to maybe just 1 or 2 and turn the volume up, and that will give me, as you can hear, that gives me a clean sound. And obviously if I want the distorted sound, then I turn the gain up and the volume down. Obviously the more I turn the gain up, the more gain I get. So I can dial in the exact amount of distortion or overdrive that I want, and then I control the volume with the volume level control there. So let's have a listen at the second channel. So remember, these two, overdrive 1 and overdrive 2, share this EQ. So if I set my EQ up for this first overdrive channel and get it the way I want it, when we switch to overdrive 2, the tone is probably going to be completely different. So I'll just turn this middle control down. Go to overdrive 2, that's 1. 2. So as you can hear, for me that's too bassy. It doesn't match the overdrive 1 channel. Now obviously if I change the EQ, then overdrive 1 is not going to sound right. So that's what this middle control is for. It says contour. It's like a global tone control for this overdrive 2 channels. So I can match the overdrive 2 with the overdrive 1, or I can have them completely different. I can have them sound completely different. I also on this amp have this switch here called power dimension, because I'm on a low volume in here so that I don't upset my neighbours too much. I've got that pushed in, and that's sort of like a cabinet emulation, if you like. It makes the amp sound better at lower volumes. So if I let that button out, the amp will get louder, but it will also get brighter and thinner. So that's why I've got that in. This button is for the effects loop on the back, which I don't use, but basically if I was using the effects loop, if I've got some effects running through there, I can press that button and then I can control the wet and dry signal with this knob. So I can determine how much of the effects I want coming through. And then we have 2 reverbs, one for the clean channel and one for both distortion channels, although neither of those are working at the minute on this amp. So I need to have that looked at. Go back to the clean channel. So that's basically the controls on an amp. You want to look for something that has gain as well as volume. Now sometimes this might not be called gain, it might be called something else like boost or pre. You might have pre and post, pre-volume, post-volume, but they basically mean the same thing. So this gain is going to give you distortion the more you turn it up. If you want a cleaner sound, you turn that gain down, and then obviously you sculpt the sound using the EQ, the bass, middle and treble, or whatever tone controls your specific amp has on it. So as I said, this one is a 3-channel amp, so I can switch between these channels using a foot switch. I can do the same with my TVP Black Star. There's no foot switch other than to turn the reverb on and off for the laner, because there would be no point, because it's a single channel amp. So the only way I can control the amount of gain on that amp is by physically turning up the knob that says gain on it. So amps are different, they come in all different shapes and sizes, but they basically work the same way. You have volume and you have EQ, and if you're lucky enough you have gain, and you might have 2 or 3 channels that you can switch between using either a button on the front of the amplifier or a foot pedal. So that's the basics of using an amplifier. Hopefully that's given some of you a bit of an idea of how to use an amplifier with your electric guitar. Join me for part 2 next week, where I'll show you how to link some effects pedals up between the amplifier and the guitar and what you need to look out for there. But that's all from me today. As ever, please do subscribe to the channel, leave a like, a comment, a share. If you've got anything out of this video, it helps me out. But that's it from me today. I'll see you next week with part 2. Bye for now.